What's going on, guys? Welcome back into the Fantasy Pros YouTube channel for our live Sunday stream. I'm going to be talking some sit start with you guys, taking as many questions as I possibly can. But first, we're going to go through the news. We're going to discuss some injuries because these are what a lot of the questions are going to be based around. So you guys actually have an idea as to how I feel about the players and what the injuries mean for fantasy purposes in Week 3. So we're going to start right there. Let's start at the top with Baker Mayfield. Him coming into the scene without any first team reps, like no time with the first team offense. Basically, he just came in cold for Tyrod Taylor, and Baker Mayfield did what Baker Mayfield I kind of expected him to do. Baker's a fantastic quarterback, and if you guys haven't watched him, I wrote a scouting profile in this offseason basically saying that if someone tells you that Baker Mayfield is Johnny Manziel 2.0, don't ever take advice from that person ever again, like never, because they don't know what they're talking about. Baker Mayfield has phenomenal accuracy. He's going to have some rookie struggles for sure because the NFL has played at a different speed, but he had perfected the windows in college that he had to throw into. You saw glimpses of that this week against the Jets, but Baker Mayfield is absolutely worth an ad. I think he's worth an ad in one quarterback leagues. Because he's going to give you a rushing floor too. I know we didn't get to see that versus the Jets, but he's going to give you a rushing floor. I just wanted to touch on Mayfield before we went anywhere else, just because I wanted you guys to understand I do love him in two quarterback formats, and I think he's going to be very, very, very streamable in one quarterback leagues. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, they are going to play Oakland next week, and I think Baker will be startable in that week. So if you guys were wondering about Baker Mayfield, I do think that he is fantasy relevant. Moving on to Ajayi, if you guys have not heard, Ajayi and Darren Sproles have both been ruled out for this game. They're out. The weather apparently in Philadelphia is not very good. They're expecting rain throughout. Cory Clement suffered an injury in practice on Friday. They're saying that he's going to play and that's all fine, but I don't consider Cory Clement a must start. I know a lot of people have talked about him saying he's a must start in DFS and all this. I'm not on that just because I believe Doug Peterson, it is what it is. And he runs a timeshare. Even with Ajayi getting hurt last week with Darren Sproles out of the lineup, I mean, you had Clement maxing out at 33 snaps, if I'm not mistaken. They had Wendell Smallwood in there a ton. I think he played 25 snaps. They've activated Josh Adams, who's a bigger running back off the practice squad. He's a rookie, but he's probably the guy that's going to get the goal line carries. So it's going to minimize the value for Clement. So honestly, for me, he's just in the RB3 territory. I think there's better plays. We'll talk about those as we go through, but I wanted to make sure you guys knew about those guys. Delvin Cook is another name that is unfortunately inactive for today's game. So if you own Delvin Cook, I'm sorry, because this was supposed to be a smash spot for his production. You should have gotten a lot out of him, but he's out. That means Latavius Murray is in, and I have Latavius Murray ranked as a top 12 running back. There's no way that I'm not playing him against the Bills. The Bills have allowed 21 running back touchdowns in their last 11 games. No, I'm not making that number up. Even to back up running backs alone through the first 2 weeks, they allowed 138 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns. So that's just the backups alone. So I love Latavius Murray this week. If you have him, get him in your lineup. Up next, we have Leonard Fournette. He's someone that I woke up to conflicting reports on this morning. You had Ian Rappaport saying that Fournette was not likely to play, and then you had Schefter tweeting that he was going to play. It seems like Rappaport was right on this one. The Jags are preparing for Leonard Fournette to not play this week. So if you guys have Leonard Fournette, be very cautious of this. They're saying TJ Yeldon is probably going to play. He's also a game time decision, though, because he had been limited throughout the entire week in practice with an ankle injury. Man, if you're really desperate for a running back, Corey Grant might be on the waiver wire. You might be able to grab him and just stick him in a flex spot because I actually think it's going to be split between TJ Yeldon and Corey Grant this week, even if Yeldon does play. So, I mean, if you need somebody, Corey Grant is like a very, very deep sleeper and one that he might do okay. Tennessee has been struggling through against the run the first 2 weeks. I think they're better than they've played, but at the same time, they're going to have Blaine Gabbert under center. And that's the next player we're going to talk about is Marcus Mariota. Marcus Mariota is he's going to back up Blaine Gabbert again today. I don't even know why they're having him be a backup. Like, why are you having this kid active? He apparently has nerve damage where it's just he's still getting tingling and he's not feeling his fingers sometimes. That's really bad for a quarterback. I don't think you guys need me to tell you that. But Marcus Mariota, don't play him in 2 quarterback leagues. It doesn't matter. Just don't play him. Blaine Gabbert, I mean, obviously the Jags defense, you're going to be playing them every week, but this is going to be a mess of a game. And what this all boils down to is that some people are going to ask, is Blake Bortles startable because Leonard Fournette's out, because Tennessee, yada, yada. I'm not really excited to play Blake Bortles. Last year against Tennessee, he had just 1 touchdown, 4 interceptions. So it's a division game. They know him pretty well. I don't know. I'm not really into Bortles this week. But moving on to the next topic, we have Marques Goodwin. As you guys know, he missed last week with a quad injury. He missed most of week 1 on the sideline. They're saying that he's also a game time decision. That's what Kyle Shanahan has said. They're expecting him to play, but there's no guarantee. The way that I'm approaching Marques Goodwin is like, if you're looking for someone to maybe potentially give you a win this week, yeah, stick him in there as a wide receiver 3 or a flex. But if you're looking for just someone that you want to be guaranteed to get, 5 to 7 standard points, 7 to 10 PPR points, I don't think Goodwin's your play here. Because I think it's very possible that he ends this game with just 1 catch or something like that, just because he's just not very involved. He's limited. He's out there as a decoy, whatever the case may be. But obviously, if he is getting healthier, it's just tough because when a player misses a week, like if he had gotten hurt last week and then it's like he had limited practice and then they say he's going to play, I'd be more apt to sticking Goodwin in. But knowing he missed a week, knowing he's still a game time decision, to me, it tells me that he's not 100%. And that's obviously a concern, right? Going down to Josh Gordon. Josh Gordon, it really sucks because I wanted to see him play on Sunday Night Football. Obviously, the Patriots play Sunday night, and if you own Josh Gordon, it's a really big problem you have on your hands because most of the players that are going to be playing in that game or the game after them, like the wide receivers, like you're talking about, Marvin Jones, you're talking about Kenny Galladay, Golden Tate, Chris Hogan, Philip Dorsett. A lot of these guys are owned, even going over to the Bucks and the Steelers game, a lot of people are owned in there. So if you own Josh Gordon, you're risking by putting him in your lineup, because if he doesn't play tonight, you might not have a replacement. One player that I can suggest that you might have on waivers, possible if you want to play Gordon and you're just like, I need a backup plan. Obviously, if any of the names I mentioned, those guys would be, I'd pick up Philip Dorsett. He'd be the first one I'd look for because he's probably available in the most of leagues. But if you're looking for like a minimally owned option, I think James Washington from the Steelers. If Justin Hunter missed last week, Washington played like almost every snap. So Washington is a baller. He's risky. Not going to say he's not, but he at least gives you an emergency plan if Josh Gordon doesn't play, because they're saying that he's highly questionable for this game, that they don't know if he's grasped enough of the offense to stick him in there. So approach with caution with Josh Gordon. Moving on to the next, we have Aaron Rodgers. And Aaron Rodgers is going to play. He was working out yesterday in Washington, and they said that, yeah, he's going to give it a go. He's going to be limited like he was last week, yada, yada. Okay, that's fine. The concern is that in Washington, they're expecting rain throughout this game as well. So with Aaron Rodgers not having his mobility, now playing in rain, it's just this is turning into a weird game script. You're obviously playing Aaron Rodgers if you have him, unless you're choosing between him and Mahomes. Maybe you grab Mahomes off the waiver wire because nobody else is doing it. I would start Mahomes over Aaron Rodgers. And honestly, look, I'm going to pull up my rankings just so you guys know. The only quarterbacks that I'd feel comfortable starting over Aaron Rodgers are Drew Brees, Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, Deshaun Watson. Outside of that, you have Cousins, and it's like he's against Buffalo. How much are they really going to throw in that game? You have Cam Newton against Cincinnati. He's a little up and down. So it's like when you start talking about those options, it's like Aaron Rodgers is my number 5 quarterback this week, and just don't expect a massive ceiling is all. All right, and then we have Devante Parker. Devante Parker is going to be active for the Dolphins today, and from all things that I'm hearing is that he's going to start opposite Kenny Stills, and they're going to have Danny Amendola in the slot, which is going to send Albert Wilson and Jakeem Grant back to the bench. They're going to obviously rotate in. If I can help it, I'm going to wait this one out just because we don't know for certain if Devante Parker is going to be a starter. So I'm going to approach this one with caution. I don't think you need to stick him in your lineup for the first week back. I think he's worth, if you don't have him and he's on your waiver wire, I do think he's worth an ad, because I think that you're talking about a player who could see wide receiver 1 targets in an offense that has been better than I think we've expected. So just know that Devante Parker is going to be active. I really don't recommend playing him this week, but I think he's worth an ad. All right, let's see. Devonta Freeman. Devonta Freeman is going to miss another week. We've kind of known this, and I know that Atlanta tried to say, no, I don't know about that report that was 2 to 4 weeks that he'd be out. Well, we're now at week 2, and things aren't looking great for Devonta Freeman. So Tevin Coleman is going to get another start for the Falcons. You guys know he's a must-play against the Saints. You don't need me to tell you that. I'm sure I'm going to have some questions in the chat, but Devonta Freeman out for this game. Tevin Coleman in. Last-ditch PPR option. If you need one, Ito Smith. He played a decent amount of snaps last week. Ito Smith is a rookie pass-catching running back that's kind of playing alongside Tevin Coleman right now. All right, Larry Fitzgerald. For whatever reason, Steve Wilks came out on Wednesday and said that his star player, the one player that legitimately the franchise depends on, even though he has a hamstring injury, he's playing on Sunday. Why that? I don't know why you'd say that on a Wednesday. Like, you haven't even seen if this guy can go through practice. It makes no sense to me if it's really a hamstring injury. They're saying that he is going to play today and all that. I don't know. It's a really risky proposition to play Larry Fitzgerald. I currently have him as a wide receiver 3 in my rankings. I don't feel great about it. The reason I say that is because the Bears obviously have been getting after the quarterback. We saw Sam Bradford throw for 90 yards last week. Ew. I know it was against the Rams, but the Bears defense has been pretty nasty. That offensive line is not going to be able to withstand the pass rush. Fitzgerald playing at less than 100%, most likely, playing with Sam Bradford against the Bears. And Bryce Callahan, the Bears slot cornerback, is one of the better ones in the NFL. Like, I think he's one of the most underrated slot cornerbacks in the game. So Larry Fitzgerald, just understand he's going to play, but he's a very risky play. And last but not least, we have Jack Doyle. Jack Doyle is out for this game as well. He was someone that was missing practice throughout the week, and they decided to just announce him as inactive yesterday. So when you Jack Doyle, it might have even been Friday, actually. When you hear that Jack Doyle is announced inactive, a day or two early, that's obviously a problem because it wasn't even close to him playing. Eric Ebron becomes a tight end 1. The game, again, in Philadelphia, it's considered there's supposed to be rain throughout the game. So that's going to add some volatility, I think, to the passing games. And Eric Ebron, he's been very touchdown dependent. I don't know how much chemistry he has with Luck, but he has obviously connected the red zone. So I have him ranked as a top 10 tight end play this week. So if you have Eric Ebron, I'm comfortable playing him over guys like Jared Cook. All right. One last name I wanted to mention before we get into the Q&A is that Marvin Jones. If you guys own Marvin Jones, there's a little bit of concern with him. He suffered an ankle injury late in the week in practice. He was added to the injury report. They say that they're expecting him to play, but that they're monitoring him throughout the game. That's never a good thing. And again, you're in a situation where he plays on Sunday night, and you would need to grab someone in order to have in case he doesn't play. I do expect him to play. I don't know how effective he'll be, but that's where we're at. So we're going to get started with the Q&A now, guys. Let me know questions, and I'm just going to pick them randomly. I'm not picking favorites. I'm just kind of going through as we go down the list. So, all right, let's see. Cam Newton or Ryan Fitzpatrick? I would play Cam Newton. I understand Ryan Fitzpatrick has been playing lights out, and it's hard not to see him continuing to play that way against the Steelers defense, who, by the way, Morgan Burnett is out for this game. I heard Artie Burns might not start for them. Joe Hayden expects to be back for the game. There's some question on their secondary right now. But it's Ryan Fitzpatrick against Cam Newton. Cam Newton's playing against a Bengals team that's without, their top linebacker in Vontaze Burfict. They're without one of their pass rushers in Michael Johnson. I don't think I can confidently say that I want to sit Cam Newton for Ryan Fitzpatrick. And Cam, obviously, he plays better at home too. So I expect him to throw for at least one touchdown, run for a touchdown. So I just think the floor is there. Fitzpatrick, man, it's like he could turn back into Fitzpatrick any day, right? I mean, that's the truth. So it's not a bad question, but I'm still going Cam. All right, let's see. Chris Hogan or Will Fuller. You know what? I really, really, really like Will Fuller this week, and I have him ranked higher than I typically would in any given week. So he's going to be matched up with P.W. Webb because the Giants, Eli Apple is their number 2 corner who typically takes on the number 2 receiver because Janoris Jenkins is the number 1. Eli Apple's out for this game. B.W. Webb has been playing the slot. He's been terrible throughout his career. So Will Fuller's a great play, but I think I like Chris Hogan a little more when you consider the fact that Darius Slay is not expected to play for the Lions. If he does, it adds an extra level of risk because I would assume that Slay would probably cover Chris Hogan. And he's like one of those cornerbacks that you don't really actively target in matchups. So this one's really tough, and it's almost like I can't answer it until I know if Darius Slay is playing or not. As of right now, I have Hogan higher, but Fuller is a great play. Fuller is a great play. So if you want to play him, I have no issue with that, especially not knowing if Darius Slay is going to play or not. If I knew Slay was out, I'd say Hogan, but I don't. So maybe Fuller is the better choice. Let's see. Fitzgerald, Crowder, or Aaron Jones. Now, you see that one, I would still go with Fitzgerald. Crowder has been playing with a groin injury. He hasn't looked great. He hasn't connected with Alex Smith. All right. So, like I said, I don't know what's going on with Jamison Crowder, but apparently he has an injury. Aaron Jones, he's the number 3 running back on their depth chart right now. He's playing behind Jamal Williams for sure. And then he's going to be playing behind Ty Montgomery as well. I think he's probably going to get like 5 to 8 touches, and you don't want to rely on those. So I go Fitzgerald there. As for, let's see, Rodgers or Goff, I would still play Rodgers there. Mahomes or Cousins? Mahomes. Yeah, I don't think you could sit Mahomes right now, guys. Like, if you have Mahomes, I think you kind of have to play him. The only quarterbacks that I would like play over him for sure are Drew Brees and Tom Brady, I think. Let's see, Marvin Jones or Keelan Cole. That's on the borderline where it's like if there's enough question marks about Marvin Jones that I would actually play Keelan Cole. And knowing that Fournette's out, that obviously helps Keelan Cole because they're going to have to throw the ball just a little bit more than they typically would. Pick 2, Yeldon, Peterson, or Hogan. So in this one, I'm going to go Hogan for sure. And then Yeldon, they're saying, I'm really worried about Yeldon. So I have him in a lot of leagues because like I thought he was worth a draft pick to begin with. But he is reportedly a game time decision. He was limited in practice all week along with Fournette, who is not playing. So I think it's real possible that Yeldon doesn't, I mean, maybe he sees 10 touches in this game and he's not very effective if his ankle is not good. So I would probably go with Peterson and Hogan, especially knowing on top of that, Peterson does get an added benefit that he is playing at home and they're playing, it's supposed to be a rain game. So, all right, let's see. Wentz or Wilson? Oh, I would go Russell Wilson here. I would have thought about Wentz had the rain not been a factor, but I think the rain is enough of a factor for me to say Wilson. The Dallas defense, are they going to get to him? Sure. I know people are worried about Russell Wilson in that aspect, but Russell Wilson's been pressured his entire career. That's why I'm not so worried about it. So yeah, I would go Russell Wilson there. Chris Hogan or Keelan Cole? Chris Hogan. All right, let's see. Jimmy G or Russell Wilson. That one's really close. That one, I don't think I'd have any issue going with Jimmy Garoppolo. Me personally, I'd probably play Russell Wilson. So the reason I say that is because Garoppolo, I think we saw it last year and nobody wanted to acknowledge it, but now it's like it's rolled over into this year and it's still a problem where Jimmy Garoppolo doesn't have a red zone option. He doesn't have anybody. So you're seeing him rack up a bunch of yardage and then you're seeing him get to the red zone and struggle. On top of that, Arrowhead Stadium, there's been a lot of NFL players that have come out and said that it's a tough place to play. Like it's one of the toughest places to play. And you see that when you look at the opponent points per game by the Chiefs. I know it's a different defense, but they were allowing so much fewer points per game over the last few years there. I just find it really difficult to say that Jimmy G is a sure thing in that game. I'd probably play Russell Wilson, but it's close. Dion Lewis or John Brown? I would go with Dion Lewis. Again, so the Baltimore game, that's the last game I think that's expected to have rain throughout the game. So John Brown, that would obviously affect him and his speed and his cutting and his routes because he's not the biggest guy. Dion Lewis against Jacksonville, they're going to need to use him because, I mean, when you look at Gabbert, who he's throwing to, the matchups that they have, I just, I don't see them completing very many passes to wide receivers. So I would go with the running back there and take Dion Lewis. Let me mute that. All right. And all right, Deshaun Jackson or Matt Breida in the flex. I would play Matt Breida. So I wrote in the primer this week that Deshaun Jackson has over his time with the Bucs, like last year, he struggled against zone coverage. Against zone coverage, he didn't. He averaged very low yards per attempt. Or yards per target. It just didn't work for him. Whereas Mike Evans was the flip side. Mike Evans played extraordinarily well against zone defenses, and Pittsburgh runs a lot of zone. So I'm not expecting a big week out of Deshaun Jackson. He could obviously have that big play, but I wouldn't rely on it. Whereas Matt Breida has a pretty good matchup against Pittsburgh. Kansas City. Matt Breida is the one I would play. All right, let's see. Cory Clement or Birkhead. That one's really tough because Clement, obviously iffy. popping up on the injury report. That's always bad. Whenever you see a player pop up on the injury report later in the week, it's always an issue for me, and I'm always very hesitant about it. Birkhead obviously has competition for carries with Sony Michel, but I'm going to play Birkhead here because, like, the thing is, even if Birkhead's in a timeshare, his team scores more points. That's where I'm at. Let's see, Calvin Ridley. I like Calvin Ridley this week. He's a fantastic play. The thing is like, so Marshawn Lattimore and Julio Jones are they're gonna tango. Those two are head to head. Calvin Ridley, they're saying that Ken Crawley is going to get benched for PJ Williams, and that's fine. That's fine. It doesn't matter because so Ken Crawley has been playing terribly. One of the worst corners in the league so far. I think he's allowed 3 touchdowns on 14 targets in coverage. And then you have, so PJ Williams, he's just a backup cornerback. He's a guy, right? Calvin Ridley is not just a guy. He's a fantastic player. I think that game is going to be somewhat high scoring. So I like Ridley this week. It just depends on who you're playing him over. Let's see. Cooper Kupp, Deshaun Jackson, John Brown, pick 2. Cooper Kupp for sure. And I might take my chances with Deshaun Jackson there just because I think him and John Brown are both a little boom bust. But Deshaun Jackson, the weather is probably going to be better. He's been obviously like lighting it up. They gave him more snaps last week after the way he played in week 1. So I would probably go Kupp and Deshaun Jackson there. OJ Howard or Evan Ingram. I want to believe. I like OJ Howard a lot, and I think OJ Howard's a fantastic play this week. Evan Ingram against Houston. I don't know. I mean, so the Giants are going to need to get the ball out really quick, and I don't know if Evan Ingram's going to stay in the block a little bit more because the pass rush. They're reportedly benching right tackle Eric Flowers. They just lost their the starting center for the season. So the Giants' offensive line is in disarray. They might need Ingram to block a little bit more this week. I do like OJ Howard. I'm actually going to say I would play him over Evan Ingram. Yeldon, Corey Davis, or Ebron in the flex. I'd probably play Ebron, to be honest with you. I thought about Corey Davis, but I mean, I don't think Corey Davis is going to completely like not score a point. I think it's like I could see like a 5-catch, like 48-yard day for Corey Davis. That's my totally off the wall projection for you guys, but that's kind of how I see it ending. Whereas Ebron should have somewhere close to that, but he's got a better shot at scoring. Let's see, Kittle or Ingram. Kittle. Play Kittle this week. If there was one end zone option for Jimmy Garoppolo, it's got to be Kittle, right? Like that's who I would go with. All right. Chris Hogan or Robert Woods, I'd play Hogan. Yeah, it's hard for me to sit Hogan for guys that are like, not the clear-cut number 1 options in their team. And Robert Woods, like, I know he has the most targets. I know he has the most air yards in their team, but the Chargers between Casey Hayward and Trevor Williams are pretty good in the secondary. They haven't got a pass rush yet, but I think that would actually help Brandon Cooks more than anything. So I'm going Chris Hogan there. Devante Parker or Ted Ginn. Ted Ginn's dealing with a knee injury. Sean Payton has talked about Traquan Smith actually stepping up. So if you guys are listening now and Traquan Smith is available on your waiver wire and you have a spot on your bench where you can add him, I suggest doing that. I'm not saying you need to play him this week, but I suggest adding him because he's a guy that was phenomenal throughout training camp. He was phenomenal in the preseason. He is a rookie, but we have a Saints team that is legitimately, they're built to win now. Like they told you everything you needed to know when they started trading up in the draft. They went and acquired Teddy Bridgewater. They drafted Traquan Smith in the 3rd round, if I'm not mistaken. So they believe in this kid. They want him to play. With Ted Ginn dealing with a knee injury, with Austin Carr not being kind of anything, I think that he's going to get more involved in this offense. His snaps more than doubled last week. I think Traquan Smith is I'm playing him in a few tournament lineups this week, but I think he's a great ad. So with that being said, between Ginn and Parker, I'd probably go with Parker just because, like, I think the matchup is better for Parker this week, and Ginn dealing with a little gimpy. He hasn't played necessarily really good against the Falcons. So I would go Parker there. I think they're both risky, but I just think Parker has more upside. All right, let's see. Stills or Mike Williams? I would play Kenny Stills. I feel like this is a week where Kenny Stills might have like 2 touchdowns again. I don't know why. I can't explain it because I just can't, because Kenny Stills is the type of guy that's going to see 5 or 6 targets. That's just the way it is every single week, but he's got to maximize those. Mike Williams has a really tough matchup. You don't actively want to start players against the Rams defense if you don't have to, and you don't have to. Brandon Cooks, Brandon Marshall, or Boyd in the flex. Oh, that's Cooks, 100%. Corey Clement or Sammy Watkins. That's really tough. I typically lean towards the guaranteed touches, but in this one, I'm going to go with Sammy Watkins. Watkins is going to see a whole lot of Richard Sherman, and I know that so many people have come at me saying that Sherman's not done, and you're picking your spots with him, but I don't think he's an elite shutdown corner or anything like that. That's what I'm saying is like he's not Richard Sherman. You don't need to run away from him anymore. I have Watkins as like a borderline top 30 wide receiver play this week. I'd probably go Watkins if I wanted upside. If I wanted a somewhat of a floor, I guess I'd go with Cory Clement. But personally, if it were up to me, like in my own lineup, I'd probably play Watkins. Amari Cooper or Larry Fitzgerald. Amari. I mean, I'm not going to go all in on Amari Cooper and say that he's like, a wide receiver 1 or a wide receiver 2 every week, like he should be, because we saw 1 week. We saw 1 week with 10 targets. It's like, I need to see more of this. Like he saw 3 targets in week 1. I want to see a trend before I start trusting him completely. But with that being said, against Larry Fitz, Fitz is in a bad situation right now. Cooks, Murray, or Bernard in a flex. Yeah, I'm going to play Latavius Murray wherever I can. So Latavius Murray. Thomas or Lockett? I don't know what Thomas you're talking about. That's not Michael Thomas. Maybe Demaryius Thomas. I mean, it's really tough. I'm not a big fan of Tyler Lockett, but I'm also not a fan of Demaryius Thomas this week. I have Demaryius Thomas ranked higher, but he's going to see Brandon Carr in coverage a lot. If it's a PPR, I'd probably go Demaryius. If it's a standard, Lockett might have more upside, but just understand Tyler Lockett is not very good. 1 PPR, Giovanni Bernard, Gordon, or Jamal Williams is okay. Guys, when you say Gordon, definitely specify if it's Josh Gordon. I'm going to assume it's Josh Gordon because you should never, ever, ever bench Melvin Gordon. So Bernard or Williams, because I'm not going to play Gordon over those 2 guys right now. So it would be Giovanni Bernard or Jamal Williams. I'd go Bernard considering it's a PPR. Just because, I mean, I'm not even a huge Bernard guy this week. There's so many people who are on that train, and I'm not one of them. But I do think he'll be startable. I have him as like a low end RB2. Whereas Jamal Williams, he's like a high end 3. That's going to be in a 3-way timeshare now because they are going to give Aaron Jones some carries. Ty Montgomery still going to mix in a little bit. Jamal Williams not catching very many passes. So I would go with Gio in a PPR. Aaron Rodgers or Garoppolo. I would play Rodgers personally. Let's see. Aaron Jones or Doug Martin for RB2. Man, I would play Aaron Jones, I guess, in that situation because I think he's got a better chance at a home run. Because Doug Martin he's strictly a backup. That's all. Let's see. Emmanuel Sanders or Alex Collins, flex standard league, 1 point for every 25 yards. I'd probably take my chances with Emmanuel Sanders. The reason is because Alex Collins, obviously, so he had an illness, if I'm not mistaken. He missed practice a day this week. We've obviously seen them wanting to share time with him and Buck Allen. It's not a great matchup against Denver. So, I mean, I'd probably go Emmanuel Sanders. He's got the best matchup on the field for the Broncos wide receivers. If there's rain in that game, it's obviously not great, but at the same time, there is going to be some passing. I'd take Sanders. Let's see. Godwin or Marshall? That one's tough because Marshall's like a clear-cut starting wide receiver going against some young cornerbacks of Dallas. And then you have Godwin, who's not like a full-time player in a timeshare with Deshaun Jackson and Adam Humphries, but his quarterback is playing really good right now. And that game expects to be pretty high scoring. Man, that's a really tough one. I'd probably go with Godwin, but it's really close. It's really close. Keelan Cole or Emmanuel Sanders. I'd play Emmanuel Sanders. Keelan Cole's matchup today is like, it's not terrible, but it's not great. It depends on what they do with him because if they move him around the formation and get him matched up with Malcolm Butler, he can beat him. But Adoree Jackson is the cornerback he's going to see the majority of the time. And Adoree Jackson is really good. Because the Titans defense hasn't looked great, don't like wipe him off. Like he's just not someone I want to target if I can help it. Sammy Watkins or Calvin Ridley. I'd go Watkins. I like Ridley's matchup, but I can't ignore the fact that he has 5 or 6 targets through the first 2 games. So I'm not going to like go out of my way to play Ridley. I'll go Watkins there. Matt Ryan or Jimmy G. I have Garoppolo, I think a spot or 2 higher than Matt Ryan, but it's really close. Like I think they're very similar plays. As a matter of fact, Matt Ryan is at home, which is nice. Let's see. No, I actually do. I have Matt Ryan higher. So Matt Ryan, I was just about to say he's at home. going against the Saints, who are going to put points on the board. The Saints defense has been very underwhelming. They're benching one of their starting cornerbacks. They haven't been getting pressure on the quarterback. That's a problem. So man, that's really close because everybody would want to say Jimmy G because that game is projected to have like a crazy like total. Like I think the over under for that 49ers game went up to like 56.5. I think that game stays under. I think it underwhelms a little bit. Whereas the Saints Atlanta, I see that one being somewhat high scoring. So I go Matt Ryan. Let's see. Latavius Murray, Howard, Michelle, pick 2. Latavius Murray and Jordan Howard. I like Sony Michel, the player, but I still haven't seen enough of how they plan on using him in the timeshare to say confidently that he's better than like an RB3. Murray and Howard are RB1 plays for me this week. Let's see. Riddick, Jamal Williams, Phillip Lindsay, pick 2. Sarah, this is tough because it depends if it's a PPR. If it's a PPR, I'd want to play Riddick in this matchup because, you know, with New England putting up points, playing in the dome, Riddick's going to have a solid floor there. Phillip Lindsay has a really tough matchup in Baltimore against the Ravens. And I know people want to play him right now, but I'm playing Jamal Williams over Phillip Lindsay. I think he's got a better chance to score on top. I mean, not just because of the matchup, because, Royce Freeman's not going away. He got goal line carries last week, and that's why he scored a touchdown. So Lindsay would need to break a long one against Baltimore. I'm not going to rely on that. So I have Jamal Williams, and if it's a standard, I'll play Lindsay over Riddick. If it's a PPR, I'd really debate playing Riddick over Lindsay. Keelan Cole or Royce Freeman in standard. As of right now, it's got to be Keelan Cole. I mean, Royce Freeman, he played like 14 snaps last week. It's terrible. He had 8 carries. You can't trust him right now. It's a terrible matchup too against Baltimore. So I don't want to trust him. Keelan Cole. PPR, wait for Marvin Jones. I have Dorsett, nice. Or start Crabtree or Boyd. I would wait for Marvin Jones, and if he doesn't play Dorsett. That's what I would do. Crabtree's matchup isn't great this week. Bradley Roby, he'll see him a lot in coverage. Russell Wilson or Stafford? Stafford. Yeah, I go Stafford in that one. Stafford is someone that I've moved up my rankings a little bit. Him and Cam are like, I'm kind of going back and forth between those two. But yeah, he's like at number 7, number 8 in my rankings, whereas Russell Wilson is like 11. So he's like a low-end QB1 this week. Let's see. Good Lord, there's a lot of questions on here. Would you dare play Sony over Coleman or Bernard in a PPR? So no, I wouldn't. I understand the thought, and definitely not over Coleman. I would debate Sony over Giovanni Bernard if I knew that Sony Michel was going to get 15 touches. I don't though. We don't. We can't say that for certain. You know, when people look at last week's split between him. Thank you. If people had seen like Rex Birkhead healthy, it would make me feel better. But Rex Birkhead didn't practice all week because of the concussion. He may not have been involved in the game plan very much. So it's very possible that it's more of a timeshare than people think. So I would, if I have another viable option, which you do, I would prefer to wait a week. I know some people are saying this could be Sony's breakout week, and I'm not going to disagree with that. But I'm also not going to sit here and pretend that there's no risk to playing him. Let's see, Rodgers or Matt Ryan. I'd play Rodgers still. Matt Ryan or Blake Bortles. Matt Ryan. Yeldon or Lindsay in a half PPR. I would play Lindsay there just because, like, I don't like Lindsay's matchup, but I really worry about TJ Yeldon. I don't think that he's going to. He might not even play, but if he does play, I think he's at less than 100%. I think they're pushing him out there because they're just, they're low on bodies right now. Cory Clement or Chris Thompson. Chris Thompson. Latavius Murray or Gio, full PPR, Latavius Murray. Yeah, guys, I have Latavius Murray as like, I think my number 11 running back this week. So there's not many people I'd tell you to like that. I'd be like, oh, you should sit him. Let's see, George Kittle or Kyle Rudolph. I'm going to go with Kittle. So the thing is about the Vikings pass catchers this week that worries me. There's just not a lot of volume to go around this week, right? And like we saw Kyle Rudolph get one target in week 1. It's the Bills. I don't see them scoring very many points on the Vikings in Minnesota. Like last year, they allowed, I think it was less than 2 touchdowns per game there. Like that's very good. Like they were the best home team in the NFL last year, if I'm not mistaken. And the Bills are having trouble scoring, period. So I don't know if they score a point, which means why is Minnesota going to throw the ball more than 20, 25 times? I don't think they need to. And that's my concern. With Kyle Rudolph, with Stephon Diggs, with Adam Thielen. I mean, you're playing the wide receivers because like you have to play those guys, but Rudolph is very touchdown dependent. And even if he catches a touchdown, it might be like a one catch for 6 yards and a touchdown type game. Whereas Kittle, the volume is definitely going to be there for him. Let's see. Can bench David Johnson? Can you bench David Johnson, or can we expect him to be used more? I expect him to be used more. Some people have asked me, should they bench David Johnson for someone like Latavius Murray? And I said, yeah, I would do that. That's the breaking point for me, though. Like I still have David Johnson as a back end RB1, high end RB2. They have to use him more, guys. Like this is it's pitiful the way they've used him, and this is something that we talked about before the season in the podcast. That there was so many concerns surrounding this team, and I don't know why nobody listened about the lack that they didn't have an offensive. Yeah, that their offensive line was bad. That Mike McCoy has been a bad coordinator throughout his career. Like I don't know what people expected out of this offense. Sam Bradford's not built to handle the pressure from that offensive line will push on him. So yeah, I have my concerns, but David Johnson should be used in the passing game a lot more, and I think that they're hearing a lot of that stuff already. So I think they have to. Let's see, LeGarrette Blunt or Smallwood. I mean, ew, ew. I don't. Ugh. I guess I go with LeGarrette Blunt because I mean Wendell Smallwood's not very good. LeGarrette Blunt, he's not very good either. I mean, he's just old and he's not as good as he once was. We know he's going to get goal line carries for Detroit, so I mean, I guess I'll go with Blunt. I don't feel great about it though. I think you could find better options in the waiver wire. I think I would rather play Cory Grant than both those guys, and I bet you he's on your waiver wire. And if it's a PPR, I'd probably rather play Ito Smith. PPR flex: Devin Funchess, Larry Fitzgerald, Dion Lewis. I'd probably go Dion Lewis in a PPR because, again, I do think that he's going to be used in the passing game a little bit more this week. I think they need to against Jacksonville. Jacksonville's just like a no-nonsense team, and you have to kind of play that screen game with them, kind of like the Patriots tried doing in week 1 or week 2. Rodgers or Fitzpatrick, I would play Rodgers. Trust Yeldon? Not really. I've actually moved him down where it's like he's like at that weird RB3 range. I don't feel good about him though. Clement over Thompson? No, definitely not. Goodwin active too risky. Oh, did we get the word that he's active? If he's active, I mean, obviously you guys know the risk that comes with him, but the matchup is really good. It just depends on who. Again, it comes down to who you're playing him over or who you're sitting for him. Giovanni Bernard or DJ? I'm playing DJ, guys. I'm not going to bench David Johnson for Gio Bernard. Both are in similar spots, to be honest with you, but DJ is like a far better player. Like it's not even close. They both. All right. So Gio plays behind a bad offensive line, down at starting center in Billy Price. The matchup against the Panthers is a bad one. Then you have David Johnson, who has a bad offensive line. Then they're going against the Bears defense, which is another tough matchup. So, but David Johnson's the better player. That's why I'm playing DJ. Let's see, Grapp or Goff. I thought that meant to say crap or Goff, but Garoppolo or Goff. I currently have Jared Goff one spot higher, so they're right next to each other. There's some risk with Goff, like in terms of a blowout. Like let's say Todd Gurley scores 3 touchdowns and they don't have to throw the ball. I think we're going to see that with Jared Goff quite a bit, but he does offer a safe floor on this matchup. Without Joey Bosa, that obviously increases me wanting to play him. So I would probably go Goff. I just think he's a little bit safer. John Brown, Demaryius Thomas, or Tyler Lockett for flex, half-point PPR. Man, I think we had a similar question not long ago, and I was torn between Demaryius Thomas and Tyler Lockett. Knowing that there's going to be rain in that game between Denver, I mean, Demaryius is like the shorter route guy. He's not being used. He's not going to be used to stretch the field, so they might use him in like that possession wide receiver role, just target him a bunch. But I don't know, man. That's tough. I'd probably go Demaryius, but Tyler Lockett is very close. Sony or Jamal Williams? I would play Jamal Williams. Aaron Jones, Josh Gordon, or Randall Cobb in the flex? I think you have to go Randall Cobb there because I don't want to play Aaron Jones this week because, again, I think he's 5 to 8 touches. I think you're going to rely on a big play in order for him to hit, any sort of fantasy value. Josh Gordon, we don't know if he's going to play, and he doesn't play until Sunday night, and I would probably go Randall Cobb. Yeah. Yeldon or Wilkins? That's a really tough one. Wilkins has a brutal matchup against Philly. It's supposed to be a rain game. I might take my chances on Yeldon, provided that he is active. Pick 3 of 4, Miller, Murray, David Johnson, Breida. Okay. So you basically need to sit one of them. I would sit Breida of those guys. Miller, Latavius, and David Johnson, I would play over Breida. PPR, Fitz or Lindsay. Ooh. Oh, man, that's so tough. I'll probably go Lindsay. It's just a safer play. Give me the guaranteed touches. I almost said Fitz, but I'll just take. I'm going to take the safety. I almost always want guaranteed touches, and we know Lindsay's going to get those. Wait for Marvin Jones or Funchess. I think you have to play Funchess. I mean, they're in close enough territory where I guess you can go Funchess. I don't like Funchess' matchup very much. I think William Jackson. I don't know if they're going to have him shadow or not, but if they do, that's a problem for Funchess. But I would go him just because there's just too much risk with Marvin Jones and waiting. Let's see, Ebron or White in the flex. And a PPR, James White or Eric Ebron. That is so tough. I'll probably go Eric Ebron with Sony Michel back and Rex Birkhead healthy. I just think that James White's role is going to diminish a little bit, even in the passing game. So I'll go Ebron. It's close though. Buck Allen or Birkhead? I'd go with Birkhead. Both timeshare running backs. One plays for an offense that's going to score a lot of points in Detroit. The other one plays in a matchup where they probably won't score a lot of points against Denver. So yeah, I'll go Birkhead there. Pierre Garçon or Sammy Watkins in a PPR. Oh, man, this is another one of those tough questions where I know that nobody wants to hear it, but it really depends on what you want out of your player. I think Pierre Garçon's a very, very safe player this week, but he doesn't offer you any upside. He doesn't score touchdowns. Like, it's now been, I want to say, over 100 targets that Pierre Garçon has had without a touchdown. So he's like due for one for sure. And the matchup is obviously good, but I don't know. He's just like the high floor PPR play where Sammy Watkins is a ceiling guy. So if you're looking for safety, Garçon is safe. If you're looking for, somebody who can light up the scoreboard, I guess go Sammy Watkins. I like this itch on my nose and I can't. Trey Burton, OJ Howard, Michelle, pick 2. Oh man. I'm gonna go. Oh man, I feel like I'm gonna make the wrong decision on this one. I really do, and I don't know why. Because all of them are like, I like OJ Howard this week. I think he's one I would definitely play against Pittsburgh. That zone defense is tight ends should do well against it, especially when you consider that Morgan Burnett is out. He's someone that they use to cover tight ends. Man, that's tough. So it's Burton or Sony Michel essentially. I guess I'll go with Sony Michel because you're getting the guaranteed touches, but I do like Burton. If you look at the Bears under Matt Nagy, obviously it's the exact same offensive scheme that Doug Peterson runs in Philadelphia. And when Philadelphia played Arizona last year, Zach Ertz and Trey Burton both scored touchdowns. So I do like Trey Burton, but I'll take the guaranteed touches from Michel. Chris Thompson or Hilton in a half PPR. Ooh, that's tough. I think I go Hilton. But it's really close. It's really close. I don't. Thompson might be the safer option because obviously he's been the check down machine for Alex Smith. But Hilton, I just wish I knew how much rain was actually going to come down in that Philadelphia game. Because if it's like going to be like a downpour throughout the game, obviously that I would go Thompson. But if it's going to be like, like a little shower here and there, Hilton, I mean, he should be able to beat Jalen Mills deep. Demarius or Geronimo? Demarius. Lamar Miller or Golden Tate? Golden Tate. I love Golden Tate's matchup. New England really struggles with slot receivers, and Logan forgetting his name right now. Their slot cornerback is out for this game. Not Logan Ryan. He used to be there. Eric Rowe. Eric Rowe is out for this game. So yeah, I like Golden Tate an awful lot this week. Like he's a fantastic play. Let's see. Larry Fitzgerald. Oh, wait, no. Oh, not Larry Fitzgerald. You say Fitz or Cousins. I just think Larry Fitzgerald. Obviously, Fitzpatrick or Cousins. I have Cousins higher. I have Cousins at number 6. I don't know how confident I feel about that just because we don't know how much they're going to throw the ball. But I do think when he does throw the ball, I think it's going to be rather efficient. So I'll go Cousins there, even though Fitz might be like the higher ceiling play. Juju or Devante Adams? Man, I think there was someone that asked a question last week and like something about Devante Adams. I was like, you can never bench Devante Adams. So I'm going to stick with that response. I don't think you should bench Juju. And if you have to start, by the way, and if you have to choose between those two every single week, I think you need to do a trade. You need to do a trade where you can upgrade, where if you package Juju and someone else, and then you upgrade to like an Antonio Brown, or you go up to like an Odell Beckham or someone like that, or Michael Thomas, do that, because you don't want to have that decision every week. Demaryius Thomas, that went away. Never mind. We're getting there. Demaryius Thomas, Sony Michel, or Dion Lewis in standard. Oh, I'll probably go Sony Michel there. Dion Lewis, timeshare as well. Tough matchup against Jacksonville. Sony has a great matchup. If he gets the ball a lot, like, you're getting great plays there. So Demaryius, tough matchup. Yeah, I'll go Sony. Hey, Mike, good morning. Good morning. Birkhead, Wilkins, Yeldon, or Clement, pick one. I would probably go with Birkhead right now. I think it's a good question because you obviously have them all in the similar situations. Like, there's a bunch of timeshare running backs. Two of them are dinged up, and Yeldon and Clement. Wilkins hasn't been very good. Really tough matchup against Philly. So give me Birkhead, best matchup. John Brown or Keelan? I'll play Keelan Cole this week. Ridley or Collins, PPR flex? I like Ridley, but I'm not going to play him over Alex Collins. I'll go Collins. Ridley has a good matchup, but he's just like, he's someone that could really hurt you if he doesn't get the targets. He's only had, I think, 5 or 6 targets through, I think it's 6 targets through 2 weeks. He's a fantastic player, but he needs the targets, and we can't guarantee anything. Collins is guaranteed touches. Tom Brady or Ben Roethlisberger? Brady. So I'm in a really weird place with Ben Roethlisberger this week, and I figure I can share that with you guys, is that I never, ever, ever, ever want to play Ben Roethlisberger on the road. Like, he's been terrible. Like, if you look over the last 5 years, it's a 39 game sample size now, 39 games. And it extended into week 1 of this year, where he threw 4 interceptions against Cleveland. Ben Roethlisberger has been terrible on the road. However, Ben Roethlisberger has been good on primetime games. Like, there was the one game that I remember he did well on the road. It was at Indianapolis, and it was on primetime. It was either Sunday or Monday night. And it was like, okay, so he does well in prime time. So what changed here? And it's like, looking at it, Tampa Bay's defense is such a funnel that you could throw the ball on them all day. They don't have a cornerback to match up with Antonio Brown. They don't have a cornerback to match up with Juju. Juju's going to be matched up with a rookie in the slot. It's like Carlton Davis or MJ Stewart, one or the other. His matchup is stupid good. So it's like, how can we not play Ben Roethlisberger, right? But he's been so bad on the road. It's like this crossroad I'm at where I'm struggling on what to do with Ben Roethlisberger. But I would definitely not play him over Tom Brady, though. Start 2 standard: Matt Breida, Corey Clement, Dion Lewis, Adrian Peterson. Jesus, guys, we have to narrow these down. I'm sorry, I have to skip over it because there's just too many names there to look over. Allen Robinson or Chris Hogan? I would go with Chris Hogan. Allen Robinson. So there's been a little bit of misconstrued information in regards to Patrick Peterson. I went back and I watched both games. Some people are telling you that Patrick Peterson is not shadowing anymore, that the Cardinals have wasted him. They're not using him in man coverage very much. They're playing a lot of zone coverage in Arizona now under Steve Wilkes. They did move him from side to side in the first week. When Josh Doctson was there, they tried having him move to either the left or the right side of the formation. He played 60% left, 40% right. Then I went and looked at week 2, which was a little bit tougher, right? Because they had a game against the Rams where it was like, there really is no clear-cut number one. I suppose you could say Brandon Cooks, but Patrick Peterson's a bigger physical corner. They had him sticking to the left side. So I don't want you to think that it's not possible that Patrick Peterson does shadow Allen Robinson. But another important thing, though, is that Allen Robinson has been playing 33% of his snaps out of the slot, which is where Patrick Peterson never goes. So Allen Robinson, he's not like a risk-free play this week. That's why I would go with Chris Hogan in your situation. But I just wanted you guys to know that, because I've heard a lot of people saying that Patrick Peterson doesn't shadow and he's not moving. He is moving at times. Let's see, Crabtree or Sony Michel in a half PPR. I'll go Sony. Again, the guaranteed touches. Crabtree in a tough matchup against Denver, a rainy game. I'll go Sony. If Marvin Jones is out, will Golladay be shut down? No. I don't think so. I don't think New England has a good defense. Like, New England's defense is really bad right now. And I don't know how New England game planned all week, for the Lions, if they, because they typically do try and take away that number one option, but the Lions don't really have that. Like, it's a bunch of guys doing things. It's why I like Golden Tate so much this week is because he's definitely going to be overlooked, and they've really struggled with guys out of the slot. So I don't think Galladay will be shut down. No. Lamar Miller or Latavius Murray? Latavius. Will Fuller or Golden Tate in PPR? Oh, yeah, it's Golden Tate for me. I like Will Fuller a lot this week, but Golden Tate is the play. Crabtree or Sony, got that one. All right, we're getting there. All right, let's see. Deshaun Jackson or Nelson Aguilar. Aguilar. I mean, when you look at the wide receiver core that Carson Wentz is throwing to, it's such a mess. Oh, by the way, guys, I think we got over 3,000 people in here at once. Like, thank you guys I just want to stop and take a second. I don't get very many opportunities to say thank you to you guys. Thank you guys for supporting all of our work. Thank you guys for supporting the live streams, everything. Like, really, we do appreciate it. The articles, like everything. And if you guys hadn't heard, I should let you guys know we have this game day thing on Fantasy Pros. So if you go to fantasypros.com/game day, it's basically like red zone for your fantasy teams. It tracks your players. So it produces a feed that'll tell you what your players do all the time. So it's just a really neat feature. I've totally forgot to mention that, but I wanted to. But yeah. All right. So let's see. Nelson Aguilar or Jamal Williams. So Aguilar, and again, I should go back to that whole Aguilar against Deshaun Jackson thing. I'd play Aguilar over Deshaun Jackson, but I would play Latavius Murray over Aguilar. But Jordan Matthews coming back to the offense, that's going to negatively affect Nelson Aguilar because they're going to put Jordan Matthews in the slot again. And that's a problem because Aguilar has struggled throughout his career playing on the perimeter as well. So I think they're in a weird position. But I honestly think that the Eagles need to start considering signing Des Bryant because like he's a presence on the outside. Wentz is willing to throw it into tight coverage. He can, hold his own. I still think Des Bryant is a player in the NFL. And Jordan Matthews, I don't love the signing because Aguilar, you're taking away what he did really well was play the slot. He's in a different point in his career, but he should get a lot of targets just because he's got the familiarity with Wentz. I'll go Aguilar over Deshaun Jackson, who struggled against zone defenses. Let's see, Bortles or Wilson. I would play Russell Wilson. Fitzmagic or Matt Ryan. That one's close, man. That one's really close. Man, I'm going to say Matt Ryan, but it's really, really close. Dan Bailey or Robbie Gould. I'll go Robbie Gould. Kicker question. Man, I hadn't seen one of those in a long time. Russell Wilson or Jimmy Garoppolo. I would go with Russell Wilson. Sanders, Tate, or Clement in a standard? Tate. Yeah. I don't think there's a way. I don't know if there's a way that you can get me to bench Golden Tate this week. Like, I think he's going to be awesome on Sunday Night Football. Marquise Goodwin, Demarius, or John Brown. Give me Marquise Goodwin. You know what? It's like knowing that he's going to play. That's obviously, a plus. But he's got boomer bust potential all over him. But at the same time, Demarius has been really weak. It's a tough matchup. And then you have John Brown, who I like John Brown. But again, that's another matchup where it's not a great one. And that game is supposed to, I've heard that it's supposed to rain throughout. So that will obviously impact passing games. So I'll go with Goodwin there. Yeldon, Corey Grant, John Brown, I'm guessing. In a PPR. I'm starting to lean Corey Grant, guys. Corey Grant just seems like he's going to be a good play this week. Like I said, TJ Yeldon, I haven't heard, like, cause I don't obviously see many things as they're going on, during, the live stream, but all reports were saying that Yeldon was like not even guaranteed to play, which tells me that he's not going to be 100%, which tells me that Corey Grant is going to be heavily involved. So it's either Yeldon or Grant, just depending on how lucky you're feeling, I guess. Travis Kelce, George Kittle, Jesse James. Come on. You're not benching Travis Kelce. Stop it. Carson Wentz or Jimmy Garoppolo. Yeldon or Williams. I'm guessing it's Jamal Williams, so I will say him. If it's Mike Williams, I would say Yeldon. Half PPR, Kenyon Drake or Gio Bernard. Kenyon Drake. I would play Kenyon Drake over Gio Bernard. Allen Robinson, Amari Cooper, or T.Y. Hilton. I'd play, man, this is tough. I wanted to say T.Y., but Amari, his matchup isn't bad either. And he's not playing in rain. I need to look at the weather update, guys. Like, so that's going to prevent me from like totally answering this one with complete conviction. But if I look and it says that it's supposed to be steady rain throughout the entire game of the Philadelphia Indy game, I will play Amari Cooper over T.Y. Hilton. Let's see. Corey Clement, Matt Breida. Oh, that went away really fast. All right. Odell or David Johnson in a trade. Odell, for sure. Let's see. Standard Corey Clement or Dion Lewis. I'm going to go Dion Lewis. At least I know he's healthy. He's in a timeshare, but he's healthy. Corey Clement, I'm not confident about. Michael Crabtree or Pierre Garçon in a PPR. I'd go Pierre Garçon. Thompson or Clement in standard. Thompson. Fuller or Giovanni Bernard in a PPR. Give me Will Fuller. Like, I'm going for it there. Like, Gio is going to, I don't think that Giovanni Bernard is going to get Joe Mixon touches. I don't think he's going to get like 16 to 20 touches this game. I don't. I think it's going to be like somewhere in like the 12 to 15 range, and that's fine. But Carolina is it's not an easy matchup by any means. So I'm going to go Will Fuller there. Let's go for the win. Thompson or Lynch standard flex. Oh man. I think I want to say Lynch in a standard format. If it was PPR, I'd say Thompson for sure, but I think Lynch in standard. Clement, Connor, DJ, or McCaffrey. I don't understand the question. I know I sound bad, but you're not benching James Conner. You don't want to bench DJ. You don't want to bench McCaffrey. Like, which one of those you're benching? It'd definitely be Clement. Clement's the one, like the odd one out. But if I had to rank them in a standard league, I'd probably say Connor, McCaffrey, DJ, I guess. Yeah, I'm not sure about that question. Let's see. Jamal Williams or John Brown, half PPR flex. Jamal Williams. All right. Ryan Fitzpatrick or Carson Wentz. I would play Ryan Fitzpatrick. Kyle Rudolph or OJ Howard. Wilkins or Stills in the flex. It's tough. I'd probably go Stills. It's close, but I'd probably go Stills. Good trade target for Devonta Freeman. I mean, it's really tough to trade him right now. I mean, he's missed 2 weeks. He didn't look great in week 1. He's involved in a mega timeshare. It's tough to do anything with him. As for a trade target, it just depends on your league. That's why it's really tough to answer trade target questions, because leagues matter so much. Marques Goodwin or Pettis. If I had both of them, I'd play Goodwin, but I think Pettis is a phenomenal tournament play, because I think some people want to play Goodwin. I think people assume that because Goodwin's playing, that it means Pettis goes to the bench. I think it's a good thing that Goodwin's playing for Pettis, because Pettis will play a lot more slot, which is like where I think he's designed to play as a rookie. I think Pettis would be a phenomenal play this week. I really do hope that he starts over Trent Taylor in the slot, because Pettis can go off. Would you trade away Ajayi 10-team standard? Yes, I would. Yeah, I'm always open to trade players. Like, obviously the elite players, I don't look to trade those guys. Like, I'd have to get phenomenal value, and I'd want an elite player in return. Who should I start? Diggs or Evans or Hill? Dude. Diggs, Evans, or Hill? Like, those are 3 like top 10 plays. You pick one. Put him in a hat. I think Mike Evans is a must play. Tyreek Hill's obviously a play. Like, you have to play him. So I'd say in my order, I think I have him as Hill, Evans, Diggs. So I guess it'd be Hill. I don't want to make that decision every week, though. Giovanni Bernard or Cooper Kupp in a PPR. That's where I might go Gio. I might. Yeah, I'd probably go Gio there. Thoughts on Marvin Jones this week? Talked about him. Don't know if he's going to play. That's a problem. And if he does play, he's like a wide receiver 3, and he comes with a lot of risk. Kerryon Johnson over Morris. Yeah, I'd play Kerryon over Morris. And I'm going to take one more, guys. Let's see, Amari Cooper or Nelson Aguilar. Again, this comes down to that Eagles, the weather report there. Is it going to rain a lot? I don't know. But Nelson Aguilar, I would probably play Amari. Just knowing that you have the rain in Philadelphia, knowing that you have Jordan Matthews coming back, knowing that means Nelson Aguilar is going to be lined up on the perimeter a lot more, where he has traditionally struggled. Amari Cooper has a good matchup against a rookie in Minka Fitzpatrick. So I would go with Amari Cooper in that. But yeah, this was fun, guys. Like, seriously, thank you guys for showing up. Thank you guys for wanting my advice, I guess. Hopefully I provided you guys with some information that you didn't have before you came to the live stream. That's ultimately the goal, guys, to make you guys smarter, to make you understand why we're playing players, not necessarily just saying, oh, him, just because I say so. I'm trying to give you a reason why I believe this stuff. And if there's something that I need to learn, it's something I'm going to learn week over week. And the more we get into the season, the better I'm going to become, the more stats I'll be able to give you, all that fun stuff. But thank you guys again. We really appreciate it. And we're going to be back. Bobby and I, we do a waiver wire live stream on Tuesdays. So make sure you guys subscribe to the channel, and you can hit that little notification button, and it notifies you when we're going to go live and all that fun stuff. So hopefully you guys are able to do that. Hopefully you guys join us for that. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Until next time, lights out.